r/NoSleep. Posted by u/snoo, hobbies 7109. Hold your breath when you pass a graveyard. Please like and subscribe to support us. I have a superstitious mom. She was always the sort of person who adhered to silly nonsensical rules like not stepping on cracks, or tossing salt over your shoulder if you spill it. Rules that may or may not even have any true origin or reason. Things that people follow blindly even though we all know there are absolutely no consequences for breaking, but follow anyway. One of my earliest memories actually involves my mom nervously demanding that I hold my breath until she says otherwise. I don't remember where we were coming home from late at night, but Mom and Dad were in the front seat and I was in a car seat, half asleep. Then she said urgently, "Jason, hold your breath." She'd smack Dad on the arm. "You too, please. Just do it." Then she'd gulped in a big breath and held it as we traveled on down the foggy night road. Once she released her breath and said, "Okay," my dad laughed. He was used to her superstitions and normally just went along with it to make her happy. "Why'd I have to hold my breath, Mommy?" I'd asked. Mom swiveled in her seat to look at me. "Because we were getting ready to pass a graveyard. Didn't you see it?" I hadn't seen it, which I was glad about. It probably would have spooked me out. I shook my head. "Well, anytime you pass a graveyard at night, you must hold your breath until you make it safely past." I frowned and wrinkled my nose. "You do? Why?" I asked. She gave me a serious look. "Son, you just do, that's why. To be safe. That's why it's so important to always pay attention to your surroundings." Sometimes I think back to that and laugh a little. To think it's important to pay attention to your surroundings for the sole purpose of knowing when you're passing a graveyard. It's sort of funny. Do you know what it takes to get hired at a graveyard? Like as a job? Well, actually, in my case, it took exactly no effort. It took my dad drinking coffee with the city workers at the local diner on Sunday mornings and volunteering me when they said that they needed a part-time groundskeeper. I didn't particularly care for the idea, but I did like money. And spring had come, so the weather was getting pretty nice. So I guess I didn't mind too much when I started working Monday, Wednesday, Fridays after school, and Saturday mornings, at our town's small cemetery. I'd go and prune bushes, pick up fallen tree limbs, cut the grass, weed eat carefully around tombstones. I was a teenager, but I was a pretty nice kid. I felt respectful of the place's residents, and I treated the grounds with proper reverence. I even came to enjoy the job. Sometimes when I came, there would have been a funeral at some point earlier in the day. The casket would be lowered into the ground, and the mourners gone by the time I arrived. But the grave would be uncovered with a pile of dirt still next to the chasm in the earth, waiting to be filled in. Or, I would arrive on a Saturday to find a grave or two dug, a deep perfect rectangle, awaiting a funeral later in the day, yet to have a casket lowered in. I hated to admit it, but I always liked the smell of the freshly dug graves. It generated a natural earthy scent. Sometimes I felt the graveyard smelled old and stale and also a little like an old lady due to the mixture of flower arrangements both growing and wilting away. It was probably all in my head. I supposed it was normal to just think that a graveyard smelled odd because a graveyard was an odd place. Nonetheless, I liked the ageless smell of the fresh-turned earth. I never saw anybody digging the graves. Month after month passed and I never so much as caught a glimpse of anyone doing it. I also wondered why the graves were left open after a funeral. Why the gravedigger didn't come and fill it in right away. It seemed sort of eerie. And maybe a safety hazard. Normally I was alone in the graveyard during my short shifts, but once in a while I would cross paths with another city worker who'd come in on some sort of errand or task. The guy who sort of ran the graveyard, if that's a thing, was a grumpy old guy who never had much to say. One Saturday morning I asked him about the gravedigger. "Hey, George," I asked. "How come you never see the person who digs the graves around here?" They were in a small office next to the main mausoleum and George's eyes shot up from the stack of papers he was shuffling through. "Kind of question is that?" he grunted. I shrugged. "I dunno. Just curious I guess." George gave me a sharp look, staring at me for a second. "He works at night," he finally barked. "Oh. Always? Like he never needs a night off, to work in the day instead?" He was glowering at me then. "Boy, it's a job for the night time. Now, if you ain't got nothing to do, I reckon you can just skedaddle." So, from then on, I got sort of obsessed with the gravedigger. Thinking of it as a job that had to be done strictly at night just made it all the more strange and alluring to me. Who was this person? What had drawn him to this sort of work? What was he like if he'd been spending a lot of time at night, all alone, digging graves? What did he look like? Why? Why on earth did he do this? I talked to my friend Jacob about it. I told him one day about all the open graves that popped up in the morning time, what grouchy old George had told me about the night grave digger, and my general fascination with this person. Jacob stared at me blankly. Dude, you're nuts. I laughed. Seriously. I think working in the graveyard has gotten to you. I need to tell your parents to make you quit that job. I chuckled again. Nah, it's a surprisingly okay job. Nothing creepy or like, crazy making, has ever happened. I bugged out my eyes and lurched at him playfully. He ducked out of my way. Seriously though, I continued. Don't you ever think about what certain jobs are like? Like being a garbage collector, or an NFL football player. Those are two really random selections, but yeah, I guess. I kind of think a lot about law enforcement. I might like to go that route when I'm older. See, that's exactly what I mean. You think about jobs and wonder about what the job is like, and maybe about what sorts of people do certain jobs, right? Jacob shrugged. Yeah, I guess. Seems legit. So yeah then, you get what I'm saying. You're already thinking about a law enforcement career. What I want to know is, who wakes up one day and goes, boy, I really feel passionate about pursuing a career in the field of digging graves. Jacob cracked up laughing. Okay, yeah, I guess I see your point. So the guy never comes around except late at night? There's literally no way you could get to meet him? I don't think so. So I guess you have to go there at night then. I frowned. There is no way I could get out late at night unnoticed. And anyway, it's illegal to go in a cemetery past dark if you don't work there. Dude, you do work there, Jacob informed, rolling his eyes. Well, I mean, it wouldn't be my time to work, so it wouldn't be okay for me to be there. And anyway, don't you think it might kind of freak him out if someone just showed up late at night? Jacob thought about it for a minute. Well then, I guess your only option if you really wanted to get a look at this guy would be to install a camera. What? I cried. Sure. Like a little motion-activated camera. Like a Ring doorbell or something. Just put it somewhere that it most likely won't be noticed, and then it'll just kick on when someone moves near it. That sounds sort of stalkery. Jacob shrugged. You sound sort of stalkery, dude. Wouldn't that be pretty sketch? Like, don't you think we could get in trouble for this? We? Jacob asked with a laugh. I mean, I suppose you could get in trouble. But the trick would be to leave it somewhere low-key and then get rid of it once you're satisfied. And if someone finds it and bothers to trace who it belongs to, which they probably wouldn't, then you could just make up something about being worried about vandals and trying to do a community service. Whoa, great idea, I exclaimed. You have sort of a criminal mind for someone who wants to be a cop. Ha, well, maybe that'll make me an excellent cop. Within the next week, we had gotten a hold of a small motion-activated camera and set it up to notify my phone when it was triggered. I happened to know that a funeral was scheduled for that Saturday, so I planted the camera where it would be definitely triggered near the site of the new grave. Jacob planned to spend the night at my house that night so we could finally see the mysterious gravedigger. I was super excited. But then felt really bad for being excited about anything involving a funeral. We spent the evening playing video games and eating pizza. We periodically checked the camera from my phone, which could be done even if no motion activated it. We repeatedly saw just the still quiet gathering gloom of the evening falling over the cemetery and nothing more. It got later and later and eventually we both fell asleep watching horror movies. The gentle jingling sound of chimes woke me. It was the alert I'd selected for when the camera was activated. I sprung awake and had to shake Jacob since he was apparently less enthused about this project and didn't wake on his own. As I woke my friend, I fumbled to push the buttons to call up the camera on my phone. Jacob rubbed the sleep from his eyes and we both settled to watch. There was a bank of graves visible and further in the distance behind them, the stone door to the mausoleum could be seen. That, as it turned out, was the motion that had triggered the camera. I pushed a green button on the screen which activated sound so that I could hear as well as see what was happening before our eyes. The heavy stone door, only meant to open on very rare occasions, was sliding open. Not only was it odd to see the door open at all, as far as I knew, there was a special tool required to open it. The door scraped noisily against the stone floor. A murder of crows nearby was roused by the noise and fluttered upwards in a flurry of shrieking caws. It seemed like eternity before the door finally finished its slow open, and what stood there in the dingy dusty gloom made me drop the phone. "What the crap is that?" Jacob cried. We both scrambled to get the phone back to watch as the thing inside made its way out. It had a slow shuffling gait, seemingly to drag one leg and haul its bony shoulders forward as though it was walking against a hard wind. Its body was rail thin, almost skeletal, with tattered old-fashioned clothing hanging from its frail frame. The skin on the face was sagging and paper-thin, but the worst part was that there were holes in various places where you could see clean through to the bone beneath. Its hair was white and wispy, all but a few wiry tufts missing. It had gaping black sockets where eyes should have been, but instead, only empty darkness pointed out toward the night. My heart beat a million miles per minute. Jacob punched my arm. "Dude, what the heck is happening right now?" My wide eyes remained glued to the nightmare depicted on the screen. "I have no idea." The thing moved forward, and after an eternity, it finally reached the gravesite scheduled to be excavated for tomorrow's funeral. It stared down at the ground, and then dropped to its knees. Next, it began to claw at the black earth. Jacob and I watched in shock and horror as the thing slowly and methodically dug the grave. With his bare, clawed, skeleton hands. We watched mesmerized for a long time until finally Jacob spoke up. "Maybe we should call the cops. This is seriously messed up." Without taking my eyes from the screen, I replied, "I mean, that grave was scheduled to be dug tonight. And he's doing it. Doesn't it stand to reason the cops already know about this guy? He's the grave digger." Jacob shook his head. No way, this is legit. That guy's like a zombie or something." I shrugged, having no idea what to make of it. "I can't believe I'm saying this, but, yeah. It looks like a real live zombie." "Real dead zombie, you mean? And are you forgetting, zombies eat people?" I chuckled. "Only movie zombies, Jacob." "Oh, you mean, real-life zombies are nice kind old souls, is what you're saying? Please." Finally, I put the phone down. "I don't know what this is, Jacob. But the city runs both the cemetery and the police department. And when I asked George about this, he acted all weird and secretive about it, and like it was just a well-known fact that graves are dug at night. So whatever this is, I think that the people who run our town already know about it." Jacob frowned deeply. "What if it's dangerous?" he whispered. I shrugged. "I don't know. I don't know what to think. Right now, it looks like it's just doing its job." After some more debate, we decided to put the phone away and sleep on it. The next day, the funeral would happen, the casket lowered into the grave, and the grave would be filled in the following night. So we agreed that Jacob would spend the night again Saturday, and we would watch again to see what happened once there was a dead person waiting to be buried.